the SAGNC Act 118, which establishes or allows council to establish subcommittees, particularly the subcommittee that I am representing here is legislative review, institutional framework, and institutional framework. Now, specifically dealing with issues that where we advise councils on matters of compliance, also assessment and prevention of litigations, and providing mitigation risks, and also advise council on policy matters. And the deputy chairperson in his input was more specific on our role in terms of advising municipalities around matters that deal with policy and the establishment of local geographical names committees at the local level. So one of the things that we, especially when you deal with municipalities, and I'm glad that municipal reps are here, is that we then are able to advise when municipalities are developing their policies. And I would then probably spend some time later on just to deal with these aspects in the presentation. We also, as a subcommittee, advise council on matters that the subcommittee deems necessary. And one of the issues that we had to deal with in our subcommittee, which was a very extensive debate, was the issue of the request for access to information and how council should be then dealing with them. And I think provincial committees must be able to get closer in understanding our responsibility in terms of provision of information that is requested and the implication of us not giving the necessary information. So we then advise council on all matters such as those ones. Well, as I said, that the subcommittee advises councils and make recommendation on legislative reviews or legislative reviews and compliance to policies. One of these issues that, as you would understand, that we are a committee that, according to the chairperson, deals with matters that are of litigation or litigious in nature. And therefore, it is important for us to always assess the risks as it relates to the work that we do and the work that councils do. And particularly provinces in their performance of all work, the work that has been done at provincial level or the subcommittee level for that matter is deemed to have been done by council. So whatever happens at the provincial level in terms of our work also impact on the decisions of council. It is in that context, therefore, that we have to mitigate risks in the process and assess whether these risks are in line with our legislative mandate as council, and how best can we avert some of those risks. So we also, I think, in the process of ensuring that we advise council properly, we deal with issues that relate to the objections as they arise in this process, advise councils on those risks. As indicated, that we as council or a subcommittee advise council on legislative review environment or legislative review framework. We are currently engaged in a process as council, where I think the chairperson indicated earlier that this act is an old act, which was adopted after the Local Government Act number 117. And since then, this act has never been reviewed, unlike the Structures Act, which was then the Local Government Structures Act. So it is in that context that when council met in 2019, identified a number of gaps within the legislation. And this legislation should also be viewed as a living document in terms of it must adapt to changing environment. And therefore, a number of gaps were identified in order to improve the operations of councils in the process. So currently, where we are now at the council level, we are at the level where council, in this council meeting that is sitting in the Western Cape, will have to adopt a 5th amendment draft, which will then go out through a process of consultation probably sometime next year, and which will then have to get inputs from different stakeholders, particularly internal stakeholders, as it will be going out to public. So my advice is that members of the newly elected or appointed PGNC must familiarize themselves with the piece of legislation, which should be our Bible, and also understand the nature and the context from which the draft is coming from, which probably one of the things that we seek to do in that review process is to regularize the appointment of PGNCs so that they are covered in terms of the Act, and also the alignment of the PGNC term of office with that of council. We just heard that the PGNC in the Western Cape was just appointed during the last month and was inducted in this month, and which then it is just a year or almost a year after the SAGNC council has been appointed. So we then want to align such terms so that we don't have issues as it relates to the lapse of the PGNC and that of council. So that's some of the issues that we have identified that needs to be put into the legislation. But also, I think Chair went into detail and made my work easy in terms of ensuring that we talk about what the courts have pronounced on consultation, that consultation is key in the process. And also, but nowhere in the Act does it define what consultation means. So we want to then, it is the intention of council to put those in the legislation as a guide on what we need to do as council in the work that we do. I think that Mlaudzi in his presentation spoke about council not being a referee and a player, which the current legislation puts us into that situation where, when it comes to complaints that are brought on the decisions that we had advised the minister on, those decisions are then referred back to council in terms of the objections for council to further advise. We are saying that it can be that when we advise a minister on a particular decision, that decision must then be sent back to us to look into. And we suggest, in terms of the draft amendment bill, that there needs to be an appeals tribunal that would then be factored into the legislation as part of managing the process of facilitating the transformation of geographical names. We are also in the process of putting in regulations, particularly regulations that would be dealing with issues such as areas where we do not have PGNCs, what then council must do in terms of working in areas like the Northwest and the Northern Cape, that there needs to be a provision in the regulation that allows us to go in there and do the work that council is supposed to be doing. So apart from the legislative review process, we are tasked with developing policy or a policy framework. And currently, council has adopted 2 draft policies. One draft policy relates to the operations of PGNCs and LGNCs, meaning that what is done in the province of Limpopo and the province which I come from, the Eastern Cape, should be the same thing or should be guided by the same framework so that there is no discrepancy in the work that we do. And as indicated, that one of the things is that work done at provincial level is deemed to be the work done by council. So it is in that context that we need to then synchronize operations of all provinces to reflect that we are one council. But I must also mention, in line with this, that as we develop this, we are mentioning how then we are advising municipalities to establish their own committees at local government to deal with features in their jurisdiction. But key in that work is a policy, and that policy development at municipal level should also take note the guidelines that the council has taken into consideration or has established. And one such guideline that I find it interesting because I think I've only seen it in one municipality where in their own police, many municipalities would deal with street naming policy, not a naming policy in general, which would include other features within the locality. And you would then find this, if you look into the issue of developers, that developers, when they develop new areas, new urban areas, they don't go through this process of ensuring that they apply for the names that are being given to those particular features. And you must understand that part of the features that fall within council's jurisdiction are names of settlement, meaning that all settlement areas fall within council jurisdiction in terms of names that are to be registered. So if developers in their process don't come through to council in terms of submitting such names, and if municipalities in terms of their own names bank that they have registered, they then need to take into consideration the processes of ensuring that those names are registered as official names and must be sent through council. So part of the policy then of municipalities in their development or review must take into consideration such aspects. And other aspects such as the language, because I've seen many areas where names are being corrupted because there's never been much research in the names that have been given in some of these areas. And therefore, the principles that we have established as council must be seen to factor in to the policy framework of municipalities themselves. So it is in that context that we plead with municipalities in this, those that are in the urban planning, those that are in dealing with roads within the municipal areas, to stick to all the guidelines that the council has developed in terms of policy. Then the other policy that we seek to also operationalize the issue of consultation would be the draft policy on consultation, which council also is in the process of adopting and also going out for comments. This policy then seeks to guide us and mainstream us, because there is nowhere where it guides what it is that constitute sufficient consultation, what it is that constitute proper consultation. So by this policy, we seek to streamline the work that we do, so that at least we are guided by all other relevant pieces of legislation, including the prescribed judgment. So those policies that, particularly for PGNCs, you must then familiarize yourselves with those drafts, such that you are also on board on the developments in terms of the stages where the drafts are, because you'll be required to ensure that you adhere to some of these policies, or you help us enhance these policies through developing specific areas that talks to For example, one of the issues that we come across is to say, when you deal with the issue of correcting a name, what type of consultation do you do? Do you go through the same process as the name change, or a corrupted name? Do you go through the same process of registration? So that policy must then talk to all those different categories of standardization of geographical names. And in that context, this policy will then guide us as to when we have a spelling correction, what type of consultation is needed. When we have registration, what type of consultation is needed. And when we have a rename, what type of consultation is needed. So it is in that context that we plead with PGNCs and municipalities to familiarize themselves with these names, these policies, the legislative review process, and plead with members of the public when this draft goes out for consultation. Members of the public must also give us their own comments, and also departmental officials must also look into them and give us their comments. That was a brief presentation from the Legislative Review and Policy Subcommittee of the SAGNC. Kai Gangangs. Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, members.
Thank you, Mr. Jodwana, for an insightful presentation. Without much further ado, I'll call upon Ms. Sateche, Shina Sateche, to come and present on the Committee on Education, Research, Training, Awareness, Communication and Awareness.
I hope I'll be audible, seeing that I'm a dwarf. I request for just the mic to be, so that it's at my level. Thank you. Thank you kindly. Yeah, how low can it go? My name is Shina Mameja Sateche Kekana Sibisi in its fullness, and in honoring my entire being of my identity. So firstly, I'd like to greet and give acknowledgement to Dikhoshi, in my language, Inkosi, of this region. My ignorance fails me in that I do not know, unlike Ntate Jodwana, the correct greeting. But hopefully I will not leave this province without knowing that. And I'd also like to greet the department, the chief director, but I think she has since left, if I'm correct, but just to acknowledge that she was here, members of SALGA that are also here, my own council, the SAGNC Council, and our chairperson and deputy, and all protocol observed. I'm a member of the ERTA committee, a scribe, but I see today I've been promoted to deputy chairperson. I won't say no to that. Although the promotion will not come with an increase in honorarium. But without further delay, I generally don't speak that much, and I just want to get straight to the point, especially I think much emphasis has been made on the importance of transformation and taking us back from where we are from and where we need to go to towards collectively. So we all have our roles and parts to play. It's very clear what they are. And our part as the ERCA committee is to really advise on education, research, training, communication, and creating awareness of, with regards to the mandate of SAGNC. And I think what's also important to mention at this stage is that it needs to be acknowledged that ERCA is the heart and the soul of this council. And I'm sure previous members will agree, yes, and current members. Without ERCA, there would be no SAGNC. But anyway, moving along. So the SAGNC Council will provide resources needed for ERCA, as per Ntate Jodwana's committee as well. And fully compliant name applications shall be submitted to ERCA by the Secretariat for verification prior to submission to Council. All findings of the ERCA committee must be reported to SAGNC Council by the chairperson of the ERCA committee. So we do not make final decisions, but we verify and we make recommendations to Council, and they then recommend to our minister to make the final decision. So the function is established to assist the Council in discharging its duties relating to education, research, training, communication, and very importantly, awareness. The following are some of the major functions required from the ERTA committee. So I'll go into each one of them. So the first one, broadly placed under outreach, is that of education, training, and awareness, and just ensuring that our mandate and our work is communicated widely within ourselves, that we are capacitated, and that our stakeholders are capacitated and aware of what we need to do. So we also do training. We've recently trained PGNC Secretariat, and I believe I saw on the agenda they will be capacitated again today on the requirements that are needed when they assist communities with the forms and just knowledge on our standard operating procedures. So we also, through outreach, we collaborate with higher education institutions. Our chairperson tomorrow will be doing precisely that as part of outreach. And importantly, we advise the PGNCs on prioritizing the review of offensive names, which were mentioned earlier on, that it is very crucial that we change so that we can restore the dignity of our people. The next function is related to research. That's also been emphasized, the importance of research, because when you name a geographical feature, it's something that needs to be well researched. It's a big thing. It's not a small thing. That's why in exerting their power and their influence, our colonial settlers, one of the very first things they did was to name mountains, valleys, rivers, because geographical features are our assets. And it's important that when we name these assets, we do it in a way that honors these assets and honors the people, the principles, or that these assets are named by. So the research is very important. We've got researchers in our committee, and we also consult when needed. It's to review our original application documents as on the schedule prior to tabling at the SAGNC. So we receive a schedule of names of the applications, compliant applications. Well, we hope so. With every subcommittee meeting, we review these and just ensure that they are according to law, to policy, and so forth. We also advise SAGNC itself, the PGNCs, on improving also on research and identifying entities of government that have capacity and do work that complements the work that we do. As mentioned very eloquently by our deputy chairperson, who went to lengths to acknowledge the different institutions that play a great role in the value chain of us transforming our heritage landscape. SAGNC to facilitate and advise the PGNCs to forge and strengthen relationships with higher education institutions. So we are once again encouraged, and we encourage SAGNC and PGNC to do that. Another function is that of communication, and this is in the compilation of a communication policy and plan that we present to Council for consideration. Also with regards to communicating the issues of due diligence to PGNCs, and advise on the development of communication material for training and other communication tools. So these are the main guiding documents that through our subcommittee, I told you it is the most important and the heart of the council, is the SAGNC handbook, the standard operating procedure document, and the application form, which I will not go into detail on, as they will be training after lunch, which will go into greater detail on each of these guiding documents and give further guidance. So siyabulela and Togozani, and also not knowing and being ignorant of what I should be saying formally, I will learn. Thank you.
Really, thank you, Shina. I'm sorry for those who didn't understand me. I spoke Chivenda. I was just thanking her and calling her by a clan name. Thank you very much, Shina. The next speaker will be Mr. Simpiwo Mavumengwana, who will be presenting on the planning subcommittee. Thank you.
So you can see behind there. Yes. You can see yourself. Yes. You want eyes at the back. Absolutely. Wonderful. I wish I were you. I have to turn around to see myself. You'll be trying to get the IT. Well, I'm watching myself. The whole time. Awkward, isn't it? Yeah, quite nice. It's like I'm on TV or something. All right. Kenneth. All right. Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? Yes, I think it is. Good afternoon, members. Well, we've said our greetings. I just want to express special greetings to the COI and the SEN leaders present here today. I do believe that by your presence here today, you do enhance the diversity of the stakeholders here in the Western Cape. So it's very important that you are here. Yeah, I do thank you very much for being here. I do hope that application forms have been spread far and wide for you guys when you leave, that you take the application forms with you when you go back to your constituencies, and that you spread the word of awareness in your own particular areas. We're dealing with the subcommittees of council now. It's part of awareness just for the members, both of the PGNC and members of the public as well, to know how is the council structured. We've now heard from the two subcommittees. My name is Sipiwa Mavomengwana. I am the chairperson of the Planning, Budgeting, Performance and Reporting Subcommittee. Shortly, it's called the Planning Subcommittee or Planning and Budgeting Subcommittee. I heard from the chairperson of ECTA saying that they are the most important committee. Yeah, it's good that you cough, Chair, because you know we are the best committee here in the council. I guess it's contested. Colleagues, very, very briefly, we don't have much time, unfortunately. In my presentation, I will cover the objectives, the functions of the planning committee, the planning and reporting system, where council, subcommittees and PGNCs report. Am I audible? The budgeting component and the support which council offers to the provincial committees. Objective, let's start. Objective of this committee is to develop, align, and review planning, performance, budgeting, and reporting function of the S agency. You see, we are a very important subcommittee here. We deal with money. If you're dealing with money, you are very important. They don't deal with money, but we do. In the function of the committee is to assist the council to develop the SAGNC annual report. As per the Act, the report is presented in Parliament by the Minister, I think a month after the financial year end, to develop the council charter, which basically regulates how council conducts its business, and to align the council's own strategic and the annual plans to be along with those of the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, to align those two plans, 5-year plans and annual plan. And also to establish a reporting regime to council. Provinces submit quarterly reports to the council, whereas the subcommittees also provides the same reports to council as well. And it is our job to establish a regime that is consistent with reporting, and also to assess the budget expenditure of the council. We've just done that exercise. Tomorrow I'll be presenting a report on the budget expenditure for Q2. Furthermore, on the functions is to assist the PGNCs in drafting provincial annual plans. I think that is clear, and to prepare the status reports on the implementation of those plans, because there's no point in drafting plans if you are not going to monitor the implementation of those plans, and to monitor the establishment of the PGNCs. Currently, Northwest does not have a PGNC. Free State, they've just appointed a PGNC and they've just been inducted, so they are no longer on that list. Northern Cape is still in that list. They still don't have the PGNC. Limpopo's term ended May this year, so they've just joined the list of the provinces without PGNCs. Ourselves, Western Cape, our term came to an end of August this year. As of 1st of November, we've just been appointed. You see, we are the one province, we don't waste time. We don't waste time. The term ended in August, November, new committee is in place. So, big up to us. And lastly, to deal with the matters delegated by council as it happens from time to time. Right, on the planning and reporting front, we now strengthen the governance system by establishing a reporting regime for the subcommittees and the PGNCs, who then report to council. I think I've covered that. On the budgeting front, now we're talking money, to establish a budgetary funding framework for the PGNCs. Now, we know that provinces don't fund these committees on the same framework. You fund that one province will fund the PGNC to the tune of 1.5 million, and then you'll find the other one funding at an amount which is less than 100,000. However, the work is the same, but the funding allocation is not the same, as this is dependent on the province and the province's budget as well. So ours then is to try and influence how these committees can be funded on par. We've made a recommendation to the department to influence the ministers to MINMEC that at least the funding pool for the provincial committees be kept at 1.5 million across the board, at least minimum. So that is a request which we have extended to the department, which will go to the minister. Hopefully it will find its way to the MINMEC, that's where the MEC sit with the minister. From there on, then it should make its way to the provincial budgets. Hopefully it will happen, colleagues. It's only a request. And of course then, as I've mentioned earlier, to monitor the budget expenditure as well. Now, what kind of support does Council offer the provincial committees? Now, members of the new committees, please pay attention. Well, we support the PGNCs. I now always refer to PGNCs because they say Provincial Geographical Names Committee. It's quite a mouthful, I'm sure you will agree. So I often say PGNC, or I will say Provincial Committee. It's the same thing. Support these PGNCs with developing their own annual plans. Annual plan is very important. If you plan to drive from Cape Town to Pretoria, you need to know which way you're going to drive, how long you're going to be on the road, how much fuel you're going to need, if you're going to need food on the road. You need to be prepared and for you to get to Pretoria, basically. So if you say this is year 2021, 2022, as a PGNC, we need 1.5 million. What are you going to do exactly with that money? You don't have a plan. So this plan will then guide you. It's your guide for yourself as a committee on what you want to achieve as a committee going forward in that particular financial year. So we then, as a committee at National Council, we then monitor quarterly the implementation of the plans which you put yourself as a committee in your own annual plans. As I've mentioned just now, with the proposed funding framework by the provincial departments, the 1.5 million cap comes in there. Provincial capacity building, which is what we are doing now during meetings of council. Identify challenges as per the PGNC matrix. This matrix basically identifies for each province the strengths, the weaknesses, the challenges, the constraints, the budget constraints, and what you guys recommend should be the solutions to your challenges. It's a matrix. So it's a one-pager. If you look at that one-pager, you get an overall picture of the entire country, of who is being funded by how much and what are the challenges, that kind of thing. And if you want to develop a model to intervene, you have to look at that matrix because it tells you what challenges there are in different provinces. And more or less, they're almost the same. They're always around the budget issue. It's always around the staffing issue. It's around the outreach to the stakeholders and the communities. And then lastly, the role of the provincial departments in supporting PGNCs. Now, if and when you get sight of the 5th draft amendment bill that has been mentioned here earlier on, that role has been now clarified. In the past, the Act did not, I think the role of the MEC or the minister and the role of the departments provincially and the funding of the PGNCs was just not there. But this now draft amendment bill does make reference to this. So these items have now been attended to in the draft amendment bill. Colleagues, with those few words, thank you very much. There is a section on the agenda for the questions and answers. If you can't take your questions during the session now, you're most welcome to raise your questions with us individually as we walk around the room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mavumengwana. As Mr. Mavumengwana has already indicated, you'll be given a platform to come with your questions where you need clarity after the completion of the session of today. I'd like to call now on Mr. Lombard to come and present on the role of SALGA. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director, for this opportunity. And through you, the Deputy Chair, earlier you made mention of the various names within the country. I remember at one stage I was a district director in the public service responsible for the Mateo district. And the name of my office building was then Tusanong Building. And Tusanong Building, it was located in the Mangaung municipal space. But in that particular district, I was also responsible for certain municipal offices in the Naledi municipal area, as well as Mansopa, all in the Free State provinces. But I must say I was never confused whenever I do planning in terms of my trips and visits. It's just part of the transformation processes in the country. I'm not actually going to repeat. You have done a very elaborative presentation as well as the visual one that actually would like to see the role. And I also saw on the program, you're referring to the role. But to that, maybe it's more about semantics. We need also then also understand then what should the task be in terms of SALGA. And I can't find any more simple document, if I can use the word simple document, is the white paper on transformation of the public service, and that is shortly mentioned as the Batupele principle. Certainly, consultation will play a critical role, Program Director, in terms of what is expected in terms of our delivery mandate. But for that, we need very much comprehensive information. And within the SALGA structure, we have the national working group committees, as well as the provincial working group meeting platforms. And of course, through the national structures, we can have these kinds of information to make sure that everyone will be fully aware in terms of the service standards that we would like to see, in terms of really address and redress whatever is expected in terms of our service delivery arm. And that is possible, Chairperson, Program Director, that we can do that. As I've indicated, we just need to pick out the task associated in terms of the roles. I'm not going to be very lengthy because the presentations were quite very straightforward. For those who don't know SALGA, we are an association of municipalities, and our role is actually to transform local government so that we can fulfill the developmental role. It's also employer body, but most importantly, we need to have a strategic face within our local communities. And certainly, and it was emphasized time and again through the various inputs here, we need to facilitate a consultative process so that we can be then at the end be accountable in terms of what is expected. Now our objectives are clear. We have a set of objectives, but I just want to highlight one or two. And local government must transform and enable and fulfill the developmental role as highlighted earlier on. And we need then to provide the necessary assistance to our municipalities, and that we will do that through our consultation processes. As indicated, we do have the platforms to play a critical role in terms of sharing the critical information. we will then be able, through these structures, promote what is expected from this particular platform as well as the critical departments. Of course, we will then be drawn to the importance of bylaws and whatever is expected. That, in short, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Lombard. As they say, kort maar bondig. I'd like to call on the Deputy Chair to come and present or rather respond on behalf of Sanral. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, when I grew up in Atteridgeville, there used to be a cinema. Now, I'm not sure we still have cinemas. Now, because we were socialized during those years, now the cinema had an advert. And the advert was a gold dollar advert. Gold dollar used to be a cigarette brand of some cigarette very strong. Now, the advert would read gold dollar rich American taste. Now, in front of gold dollar rich American taste will be the name of the cinema. Now, because we were not really aware of what was happening, we thought that that was the name of the cinema. So we'd go, I'm going to Kudu gold dollar rich American taste, because we thought that was the name. Now, this is the challenge that we face as SAGNC when it comes to the work that we have stellarly completed. And I'm going to use Medina Pule's province, not because of any other reason, but because she's my comrade. And in case you don't know what a comrade is someone who will cut your back even in your absence. That's a comrade. A person who will cut your back even in your absence. So if you are incapable of doing that to me, you can't be my comrade. Now, when you drive on the N4 in the direction of Mbombela, it's nice. You know, you see transformation, Solomon Mashangu, Warau. Then you see Emalahleni. And then the first board, it's nice to see, it's nice to the eye as we exit Emalahleni. The next one, for some reason, it drops the name Mbombela and goes back to Nelspruit. And then you get a bit offended. You continue driving. Emakazeni, all those ones, you are going. When you enter Mbombela, here comes Nelspruit again. Now, and this thing, this confusion, you find it even in the Bible. That's why Noah was not sure what swallowed him, because he didn't know whether he has to go to Nineveh or Tarashish, because probably the signage was as terrible as what we see today. What was that? Confusion. I know, and you gave me this thing in the morning, Jonah. But the issue is that nothing is as bad as us transforming the landscape and the naming remaining the same, not reciprocated by signage. And the people responsible for changing those signs is SANRAL. And the point I'm trying to make is that their continued non-participation at this level can only lead to the type of confusion that will. You still have a signpost in Gauteng pointing you to Transmart's international airport. Transmart Airport, not even international airport, Transmart's airport. When the airport has undergone tremendous changes in terms of naming, from Transmart to Johannesburg International Airport, which was in Kempton Park, another confusion, until it is now OR Tambo. So, SANRAL not only plays the important role in terms of putting the signage, but even in terms of replacing those that have been damaged by reckless drivers. I don't want to say the state in which they become reckless, because I might be dealing with one industry unfairly. So we must find a way of ensuring that SANRAL comes on board. When you, I don't want to expose myself more than I have already done. But in my other life, we had something called bushcraft. Bushcraft is nothing else but training in understanding your territory. And if you read some of the books, you would come across a very important event in the history of South Africa. It's called Wanki's Polilo campaign. It took place in 1967. Now, this is a campaign where soldiers of a certain liberation army were infiltrated into the then Rhodesia with the aim of ultimately coming into South Africa. Now, two things happened, which, because of not understanding bushcraft, led to the flop of that campaign. The first one was that the people were infiltrated into Rhodesia on a reconnaissance report which was inaccurate. The road they were giving us, a road to use to get into Rhodesia, was such that they had to go down a cliff when they thought that they would walk through Zambezi. When they arrived at the spot, they realized that they had to go down a cliff. But because they were resolute on doing what they were doing, they used a rope to go down. Okay? That's the first mistake. The reconnaissance report was wrong. But the second mistake was that it was at a season when animals were migrating in the opposite direction of where they were going. And if you understand migration of animals, it's not animals taking a stroll, it's animals running. So they had to go against running animals. What does it mean? It means that season there's no fruit. It's dry season. So they faced hostile territory, hostile animals, and hunger. And that's why some of them died and some of them were arrested. Because if they were right in terms of their signage, they would have known which route to use and not come across migrating animals. And they would know what time to travel and how to negotiate the territory. Comrade Dina, on Friday, I was driving from Granskop, and then I took the Sabi road, yes, because I wanted to come through Mashishi. Partly because I wanted to dodge the Machada Dorp 104 toll gate. So when I got onto the N4, there's construction of the road. Now, I'm under heavy flu. I'm sneezing. You know the sneeze that comes, tia, 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 tia. And the next thing, I was in a pothole. Now, because of poor signage, I nearly did not stand in front of you. I'm serious. I could have been dead. Because if there was a sign that says potholes ahead, I would have seen it. So the work of SANRAL is as serious as death. And in the graveyard, the only thing you find is silence. And the place remains spooky. So when we do our work, we call upon SANRAL to come and give us the necessary support. Let me thank you.
A good presentation on signage, Deputy Chair, which reminds me of when you mentioned the issue of Kudu Goldola. I remember when we grew up, we had this story about an American tourist who came to South Africa. So in the past, if you remember, it was always a bilingual signage. Slaghuis butchery. Slaghuis/butchery. Ne? So this American tourist could not, he did not understand the word slaghuis. And in other words, he did not understand whether they meant the same thing. So as he was moving, he would come across a butchery. And the next one, just like that, town after town, Slaghuis butchery. Slaghuis butchery, this guy must be very rich, eh? So many shops, eh? Slaghuis butchery, Slaghuis butchery. So I just wanted to share that one with you. Thank you very much, yeah. Mr. Mavumengon, you are a very, very popular person today, eh? I can see you are very popular. Back to the podium, thank you, sir.
You know that gentleman who did the sign language?
The one that messed it up.
Yeah, you remember?
What are you conversing about?
They say he was insulting people.
Yeah, it was that.
He was
Oh, this
insulting.
is recent one.
Yeah, and he was making up stuff. They said, no, man, this guy is making up stuff. He's not talking sign language. Yeah, and also was insulting people.
He makes us look bad.
Exactly, my point. Champions League, you can go ahead. Colleagues, I'm now wearing a different hat. I wear two hats. Just something before I get into this presentation. Something about SANRAL. SANRAL is a very important stakeholder. At the moment, we're busy. When I say we, I mean as a agency, we're busy harvesting all the names that have been gazetted but have not been implemented. And who's the biggest implementer of the names? It's SANRAL. I think in the Act, I think it's section 2.2 or something, where it says that we need to ensure the implementation of the gazetted names in South Africa. However, we don't have that mandate to implement. SANRAL is the implementing agency. And it's not only SANRAL, you've got the municipalities through SAL, you've got the SABC, you've got Google Maps, because they show the old names after the name has been standardized. But SANRAL is the biggest implementing agency. So at some point in time, when this whole thing unfolds, we will eventually get to sit down with SALGA once we have identified which names have not been implemented. The provinces, of course, will come into play as well, because we will give them, these are the names in your own province. Can you please go through these names and see which names have been implemented and which names have not been implemented? Those names that have not been implemented will then go and dig up their gazette for those, and then we start to engage SANRAL. At that point in time, I really hope that SANRAL will come on board and that we get to implement the names that have already been gazetted. Just on that note of SANRAL. Well, colleagues, I'm now wearing a different hat as the former chairperson of the outgoing committee. I think some people are still calling me chairperson. I guess once a chairperson, always a chairperson. Colleagues, I'm presenting, yes, Councillor Shina, once a chairperson, always a chairperson. Am I guys audible? Yes. I am. Thank you. I now present to you, this is item 3.1, I think, on the agenda, the status report of the committee, whose term has come to an end. The term was from September 2019 to August 2022, and my name stands over there. Well, let's just briefly talk about, well, of course, in summary, ourselves as a committee. Our term was from September 2019 to August 2022. And the composition of the committee we had 6 members who were appointed by the minister. We had 3 ex-officio members. We have the support of the secretariat and a responsible manager who is a deputy director. I'm not going to mention names. Anita, should I mention your name? Anita is our secretariat. She's done a sterling job supporting the work of the PGNC. And Helen over here, she's the deputy director as well, responsible for the work of the committee and for the committee itself. The committee was established in terms of section 2.2 of the Act, as you all know by now. And the futures, now this is very important to know, the futures that fall or may be covered by the Act for us to look into are the names of towns, or the futures are towns, the suburbs, any form of human settlement, whether it's a new settlement or an existing one, whether informal or not, the post offices, railway stations, the highways, we've got a few of them here in Cape Town, the boulevards, the airport, you probably know by now, in the Eastern Cape area, a few have been changed in the old PE area, now Kabeja, and in East London. The rivers, the government dams, etc. Note government dams, not private dams. Now, the features that fall outside of the mandate of ourselves, the name of a country, we can't change the name of a country, and we can't change the name of a province. We can't even change the name of the municipality or local authority in the place of tribal leaders. And the features that fall under the control of the municipalities, those are the streets, your parks, your buildings, your cemeteries, etc. Those we cannot change their names, including the private farms and the cadastral names as well. Well then, what is the function of the WCPGNC or APGNC as we know it? It's to ensure that we standardize names in the Western Cape, in our province, in order to redress correct, and transform the naming system in our province. Overall, that's what it's all about. 2, responsible for advising the local authorities on names, transformation, or standardization, and to make recommendations to the SAGNC, that's the National Council, of course through the Minister, on the name applications for geographical features in the Western Cape. Now, for my new members here of the committee, they probably will serve as some kind of an induction all by itself. Continued functioning of the work of the PGNC, responsible for ensuring that local communities and stakeholders are consulted sufficiently when there are name applications. My colleague from the legal subcommittee did mention that there is a draft consultation policy which will guide how we consult. So this talks to that particular policy, and to ensure offensive names are collected and standardized, and also to liaise with the SAGNC on promoting research. Performance review. The committee has held quarterly meetings since its inception in order to conduct its business. In line with the SAGNC reporting regime, the committee has an annual plan, 2021-2022, which was developed during the Strat Plan workshop, which was held here in Cape Town. Quarterly reports are submitted on the work of the committee during its term. Performance review continued. M&E assessment has consistently been above average. That's how we have performed as a province. The challenges identified are the submission of name applications for transformation. I think this has been mentioned quite a few times. That remains a challenge, and also engagement with the stakeholders. So I hope that with this new committee now coming into play, that we will consider these challenges and see how we deal with them going forward. Standardized names. What names have been standardized? We came at the tail end of this particular process. However, we did witness the gazetting of Zonneblom to District 6. The committee led by Mr. McPherson, they were very instrumental in this name change application. As I've said, we came at the tail end of the process where we witnessed the gazetting of the District 6 name. The R301 name, which was changed to Mandela Freedom Road, this is in Drakenstein Municipality in Paarl. I would like to mention that the chairperson of ERTA, when this name was presented at the National Council for consideration, these are his words. This is the best application in terms of completeness and compliance with the SOP, meaning the application process. So, well done, guys. And here, all credit goes to Anita, our secretariat. She was on point, she was consistent, she was busy with the municipalities. Whenever we needed something, whether it's a consent letter, it's a form filled in incorrectly, etc., etc., she was all on point. So all thanks to you, Anita, well done. And just to add one more thing on this one, because of this name, the Drakenstein Municipality won a Cultural Affairs Award, which was hosted here at the Artscape. Where am I now? Okay. Drakenstein Municipality, as I've mentioned, won a Cultural Affairs Award. Now, I'm not sure of the correct wording. I've got here for a contribution in the Geographical Names and Heritage Transformation category. I stand corrected. Maybe Jamie can correct me of the correct category this name fell under. And this was conferred by the Minister Murray, recently held here at the Artscape. So well done to the Drakenstein as well. Moving on. Well, maybe some of you may not know this. Very interesting for the new members. Auditing of the offensive name here in the province. On the 1st of September 2018, Minister Murray called for an audit of all offensive names in the Western Cape. And this was through a media statement. And this was published on the following media platforms: the Western Cape .gov, there was an online link to that. So we 10 print media, Herald Morning Final, on both on the same date of the 2nd of February 2018. There was a Times Live online link. There was a Business Live online link. Is there a meeting at the back? Is there a meeting here? Okay, where was I now? WesternCape.gov online link. There's over 10 print media. There was a Herald Morning Final, also on the same date of the 2nd of February 2018. Times Live, an online link on that. Business Live, online link on that. And Business Tech online link. So you can see the extensive media coverage which the minister went into when she called for the audit of the offensive name. Now, perhaps something for the new committee to take up as well, because the names, I believe, they are in the office of the minister. Perhaps something for us to start engaging with the office of the minister and see how far we can take the process, or maybe work with the office of the minister in taking the process forward, knowing that we may not initiate the process of applying. It's very important to note that. However, nothing stops us from engaging the office of the minister on the list, on that report of the list of the offensive name. Now, having served in this past committee, having seen how the committee has functioned well or not too well, if I were to recommend to the department, for example, is what would it take for a new committee to function optimally for the best performance? Well, firstly, you've got the ministerial appointees. Sorry, that's us. And then you've got the ex-officio members. I want to emphasize the role ex-officio members have played in the life of the committee whose term has come to an end. I couldn't have chaired successfully the meetings that I have without their input. They were just there. They were there in terms of the content, attending meetings, contributions, just everything that we asked of them, they would deliver. Well, the first member the first department is the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. It's a mouthful. The branch is National Geomatics Management Services, and the Chief Directorate is National Geospatial Information, NGI. You know who I'm talking about, right? You all who know about it. The man who deals with spatial queries and maps. And he did assist with the training as well, and then general input on the core business of the Western Cape PGNC, and that is Stephen Jansen. Well done, Stephen. Thank you very much. Well, the other member from the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. I don't know why they come with such long names for the department. What happened to the Department of Housing? One word. Now it's Human Settlement, the name and the surname. Okay. The Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, DEDP, City and Regional Planner. This department, or the person from the department, has supported the committee by mainstreaming spatial planning to the landscape, which requires cultural iconography, which reflects current attitudes and values. You can grab me later and I will explain to you what this means. Marik was here. He's somewhere. Marik is one of the members of the committee. Just like Rihanna is with the Committee on Legislation, Marik is our Rihanna. He is very finicky with the content, the grammar and everything like that. This doesn't sound well. This must be corrected. Yeah, he is a very good member of the committee. Unfortunately, I think there he is over there. Marek is a member of, he comes from the DEDP committee. We're still talking about the structure that will make this new committee performs far better, I hasten to say, than the previous one. We had a member from the Department of Transport and Public Works who then provided us with advice on the suitability or the variation of a name for a sign, for a board signage. As I mentioned that in the Act, it says implementation of gazetted names. That is Section 2.1e. I said Section 2.2. It's Section 2.1e of the Act, which talks about implementation. When the name Mandela Freedom Road first came up, it was Nelson Mandela something, then Freedom. It was like a mouthful. So through the guidance from the lady who comes from the department, the name went through different variations until it came to a correct variation which was suited for the board signage, and then the name went through. Then the lady's name is Sarah, Miss Sarah Chow. I don't think Sarah came in today. Okay. Now, we've had these members in the past committee. As I've said, they've been excellent in their work. Now, I would really recommend to the department that we include, as we do with the National Council, a member from the Pan-South African Language Board, PanSALB, from the Western Cape. I think in the past there were some emails from this body reaching out to us to be part of our structure. However, at the time, we were towards the end of the committee, so it really wasn't going to serve any purpose to have a new member joining us when our term was coming to an end. However, now that we are starting a new term, I really strongly recommend that PanSALB Western Cape be part of this particular new committee. A member from SALGA, I won't say much, I think enough has been said. SALGA is very, very important. SALGA and SANRAL are they very important implementing agencies. So having a member of SALGA serving in the committee, or the least having a member of SALGA at arm's length when we need assistance from SALGA, especially when it comes to the implementation and when it comes to the consultation with the municipalities on the applications that we receive. You know, on this SALGA matter, I won't mention the name of the municipality. We received an application, and this was in the first year of our term as this committee. It was not a difficult application. It was a mountain top to be changed to a Khoi name. You have no idea how difficult it was. Now, in terms of the SOP application process, the municipality needs to acknowledge the application by stamping it, not to approve it, acknowledge it. Just getting that acknowledgement took us towards the end of our term, not for lack of trying. I mean, Anita is so consistent, she got it right with the Draken State municipality. But with those guys there, I won't mention which town, to the point where our term came to an end, we were still fiddling with this name. I said, but we can't do this. And now we can't take the whole thing forward until the municipality, who are a very important stakeholder, acknowledge, at least with their stamp. I think they did eventually, but then it was at the end of our term, so we couldn't do much about it. So this is how important SALGA is to us as a stakeholder. Now, you may ask yourself, what is the contribution of these ex-officio members to the work of the WCPGNC? Simply put, ex-officio members provide transversal oversight and continuity. They've been here longer than I have even in this committee, which now enables the committee to retain institutional memory, very important, and provide guidance for strategic direction as determined by the committee. I think that is very much clear on its own. Right. Now, this part has been covered already. It forms part of my presentation. I would have said introducing the members of the new PGNC. Now I will say confirming the new members, because they've been introduced already. Confirming the new members of the WCPGNC. I think, colleagues, it is just fitting that as I give a report of the term that has passed, that as we enter a new era, that you also know who is in this particular committee taking us into the new era. We've got the ministerial appointees. So on the side, okay, Helen is not here and Carol is gone. So it's John and Anita. I'm going to follow up on that recommendation of having a PanSALB member present into the committee and a member of SALGA as well. Introducing new members for the term 2022 to 2025. Here we go, ministerial appointees. Wow, what do you know? Mua, first one. I don't know who put my name there on the first one. It's not me, I assure you. A. Grace, I. Higgins, G. Allard, L. Makubu Badenhorst, L. Abdul, E. McPherson, M. Carolson. A gentleman from Weinberg Civic, he uses that email address. I don't know who his name is. Is that you? Okay. So you use that Weinberg Civic email address? Or they are the ones who nominated you. So their name, okay. Maybe you should get your email address in there, because after you've been appointed, then they are all, steps back, and then, you know what I mean? Okay. All right, moving on. Now, these are the appointees by the minister. The ex-officio members are Mali Khadij, where is he? He's still over there. Stephen Jansen, our MEPS gentleman, and Sarah Chow, who is not here at the moment. Who supports the work of the committee, the department officials? It's Michael Jansen van Rensburg, who's the director. It's Helen Volgraaf, she is here, the deputy director, just stepped out. And Anita Dupree, secretariat and researcher. Anita is the Indian, guys. Yeah, without her, really, we won't do much. She's very strict, especially with the budget. Cut you. Well, well, guys, thank you very much, and thank you for your time. This concludes my report on the work of the committee whose term has come to an end. So the new members will now know what challenges that we faced and the success stories that we had, and that we can plan our way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mbavumengona, for the status report. It's very easy to downplay an award, but an award is recognition for impeccable performance and leadership. And I think you deserve a round of applause from the audience. Without much further ado, I'd like to call Mr. Ndicheni to give us a presentation on electronic database use and GIS presentation. And thereafter, the session will be open for Q&A. And we just hope we'll be able to manage our time so that now by 2 o'clock, then everything has been done, then we go for lunch. But before lunch, let me remind you, colleagues, that there is still a photo shoot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Program Director, Chairperson of Council, Deputy Chairperson, members of Council, both national and provincial. I seem to be having a small technical glitch here. For some strange reason, my laptop doesn't want to log in. Can we use this one? For some strange reason, it doesn't want to log in. I don't know why. Just come up. All right. Just go to web browser. Okay. Yeah. Let's see if it's just to be sure that at least. Okay, hold on for me. I want to connect it back. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ndicheni from the National Department of Sports, Arts and Culture. What we have done recently, we have recently launched a website that is directly linked to our database. What the website does is what I want to show you, but unfortunately I'm using somebody else's machine. and hopefully all right. Now, we launched on the 7th of September, and then we went live. And then what we have created is a platform which is very useful for the purpose of standardization of names and also for the purpose of ensuring that members of the public and in general, including anyone actually, can have access to information. It's unfortunate this thing is taking a little bit of time so that we can all have access to information that, you see, the gentlemen who have presented before me earlier on have spoken of legislations, they've spoken of different types of documents or different things. All of those things can be easily accessed at the site. I don't know what kind of jealous is this, but now my machine is back. Can I use it? Yeah, it's back now, yeah. Because this is taking longer. Because I prefer to demonstrate. I'm not a talker, public speaking kind. Yeah? Ah, no, let's connect. It's too slow. Let's connect. Okay. Yeah. Let me connect here. It's a little bit slower there. Please connect on this one. Thank you.
Let's see if it's going to come up screen.
Is it coming up?
Let's see.
Okay. So coming up. It's fine. Let's use it. Let's use this. It's fine. I'll be patient.
Okay.
No, it's fine. Let's use this one. I'll just be patient with this. With the slow pace. It's fine. Since we're already here. It's taking a bit of time. Yeah. All right. All right. Finally, we are here. Now, before we go any further, the first thing that it will be prudent for all of us to know is what is this, how do we get to this website? At the moment, all you need to do is to enter the name of the website, which is www.sagns. I'm stressing this S because it can easily be confused to SAGNC. So it's www.sagns.gov.za. It's a very simple site. The only confusion is with the S and the C. Right, so if you can look at the screen there, you can see that the website is open. It shows us the number of applications which are currently in progress that we have. It shows us a number of things. But for the purpose of this presentation, I'm merely going to focus on certain areas which are can be best used by members of the public in general to access information. As you can see there are a number of tabs. From the Home tab, About Us, GeoLibrary. That is the first one that I want us to just bring your attention to. In the GeoLibrary, what you'll find there, you're going to find, for example, we've got the recent gazettes. These are gazettes which have been finalized in this current financial year. So those gazettes, if you want to access them to see the names which have been gazetted recently, that's where you'd go, and you can just simply download that gazette. And then you have it. In addition to that, what you will find there, you'll find the handbook. So you can easily download that particular handbook, and then you can have an electronic copy. If you want to print it out, you can do so as well. So that means you do not have maybe to leave your own home or wherever you are to have access to this information. You can just do it from the desktop. Additionally, as we go further, There's a flyer there. There's also the Act. It's also there. You can also download it from there. And then we have one of the most important documents there. I'm not saying the other documents are not important. They are also equally important. But the application form is very important. Councillor Sadika says, no, ERCA did it. So the application form is there. That's why I'm saying these are aspects which I view are very important for the members of the public to know, because this is where now you can easily have access to the application form, which was distributed earlier to most of us. So if maybe you misplaced that copy or you need a new copy, that's where you go and you download that particular application form. And then it's available in two formats. It's available in PDF format. It's also available in Word format, because some of us like to type than to write. So you've got both options, whether you are typing on it or you are using a pen on it. And then you're also going to find the regulations and the standard operation procedures. What is the processes that are followed by the council? All that information is available there for you as a member of the public, for you as a member of council, as a member of a provincial committee, as a member of SALGA, as a member of any structure, in whatever capacity, you have access to that particular information by simply going to that particular website, sagns.gov.za, and then you go to the Geo Library tool. It's our mini library that we've created so that everyone can have access to information. If you are an applicant and you have applied and the province have done the correct thing, which is very important, because once they receive the applications, since we're moving digitally, once they receive, never mind whether the application is ready to be considered by the council or not. Once they receive that application, it is ideally best for them to capture it onto the system. It will create a reference number, which will be sent to the applicant via an SMS, and then the applicant will be able to track and trace that particular application. So once it's received, it will reflect on our side as a received by PGNC. When it's ready, the PGNC personnel will go and click a button to move it to SAGNC. That's something which is very important. Just receiving it, please capture it in here so that the applicant can have the access to be able to see how far the application is and so on. Unfortunately, I'm not using my machine, so I don't even have a reference number I can try to use as a demonstration. So normally you will go to that button written launch now, then you click it. Once you click it, it will open another application, and on that application, what will happen is you'll be able to enter your reference number, and then you see at which stage is your application. Is it with the PGNC? Has it moved to the SAGNC? Where is it? Is it with the minister? Where is it? What's happening to it? Right. So that's another benefit to it. Additionally, you can use that tool there, which is the Geographic Names Lookup tool. As a member of the public, if there's a particular name historically which was gazetted and you want to search for it, you go in there, you can search for it. When you search for it, what it will do is, as you can see, you'll be able to see a mini map there of that. And then on that particular map, I'm hoping this will load a bit quicker. On that particular map, that's where you'll be able to search for that particular name and see, oh, this is the gazetted name you wanted and where it is. Then you can locate it easily. All those yellow bubbles or points that you see there are names that the council has standardized since its inception. The names that are there, they start from as early as the year 2000. I think in total, if I remember correctly, we've got around 1,464 names in there, if I'm accurate. But if I'm not accurate, it should be by 3 or 2. But I think it's around there. That should be the correct number. around 1,464 names that have been standardized that we have on the system. So any name that you want to look up, you can go and look up. Maybe one thing that I would like to emphasize, because these are the most things that members of the public can actually utilize the system for. For the PGNCs and their secretariat, there's a whole lot more they can do. They, on the other hand, have the access to that last button that says member directory. That's where when you submit your application to them, they will need to come and capture that application into the system. Unfortunately, that is just opening for a member of the public because it doesn't have the tabs that are there for loading the application form and so on because of the technical glitches we had at the beginning. I was hoping that I'll be able to open an application form online and then you'll see how it looks like. Unfortunately, because I'm not using my machine, I'm not even signed in because the PGNC secretariats, Anita, myself, and the rest of the colleagues, we have signing details for that particular purpose so that we can load your applications and then we can also manage those applications. By managing means we can go back and forth into that application until it's finalized. If there are additional documents that are needed, we can go and load them until it's finalized. So I think in brief, this is the website and this is what it offers you. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Now we've come to the stage of Q&A, and let me remind all the presenters to be available if and when such questions are directed to their presentations. In the interest of time, let's just agree that we'll only use 10 minutes, not more than that. So in other words, please ask specific answers, and then you'll get specific questions. Specific questions, you'll get specific answers. And thereafter, the chair or deputy chair will close up for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. My question.
May I, just a minute. Let's try to be orderly. I think I recognized him first, and then it will be the second one, and the third one over there. Let's take 3 for now. I'll come back to you, ma'am. I've recognized you. Chair, your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I want to thank the program director for this opportunity.
Thank you.
My name is Philip Rose. I'm chief of the Kai Korana Transfrontier Tribal House. I've actually got 3 questions, and I just want to greet everyone here today. And I'll do 1 question now. The first question is, why was the Khoisan Cultural Councils registered with the Provincial Department of Arts and Culture not invited to this capacity building event? I think I must finish my questions and you can just answer it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I think that is directed to you, Mr. Mavumengwana, and your team.
Can I just do the other 2, please?
Okay.
The second question is there any members of the Khoi heritage and Khoi ancestry on the PGNC Provincial Geographical Council? And do they have the oral history and the collective memory of Khoi San culture and tradition. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am, I recognized you, and then you will follow, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. For me, it's one recommendation for the translation of the information, especially the application form, into all the indigenous languages, and also specifically for the Western Cape, because I'm coming from Pensa, the provincial office, for the 3 official languages of the Western Cape. Also in Nama languages, because we have dictionaries which have been recently launched, so for the information to be accessed in that format. And also, if you can also produce a short video about the application to also cover for the deaf community. So that is my first recommendation. And secondly, from my colleague from the Western Cape, Chairperson, I would like to perhaps the minister to revisit the call or the publication or the call of submission of names, because when you presented, I noted that the publication or media houses that are presented there are only English publishing media houses. So it means that a vast community of the Western Cape were left out for the submission. Thank you, Chair.
So I take it yours is actually a language issue.
Two.
Yeah, it's noted, I believe. Sir?
It says Molweni. My name is Kuba Melvin Arendse. I'm the national chairperson of the Kai Korana Traditional Authority. I would like to ask one pertinent question. In this whole discussion, the word decolonization was never used by any of the departments present here. And it is offensive, to say the least, that a discussion of this nature only allows for 10 minutes of questions and answers. It flies in the face of accountability and transparency in public consultation in a historic matter such as this. And the organizers and presenters should not consider this an achievement of any kind. I want to come to my question. This whole process is going to the equality courts 1 year from now, as soon as the Khoi and San authorities are recognized by the Kokta Commission. I will tell you why. There is a road running through our community called Delaray Road. But General Delaray never set foot in that road. Voortrekker Road runs from here all the way to Belleville and beyond. But this is not the route the Voortrekkers travel. We are sitting with colonial institutions that represents pedophiles, serial killers, and the perpetrators of genocide against our people. We are hearing national and provincial departments not understanding their obligation to the people of the Western Cape, their heritage and their legacy. Let me come to a point. In Voortrekker Road, there's a collective memory and collective history. According to Korana, of Korana and Ngoni people, such as the Amatlupi and the Abatembos, who said that grief with us in Ndabeni. Maybe some of you can remember who and what happened at Ndabeni. So our entire diaspora is being imposed on us by a process that doesn't understand the necessity of consultation, for which we will hold you accountable in the courts after the recognition process. Every court from the equality courts, whether Salga complies in the IDP, the courts will make you compliant in terms of the IDP. Because national legislation was written, enacted for implementation, not to be considered against party political lines, regardless of who you are. If you do not understand that, we will make you understand in the courts of this country who is an independent judiciary. So I am appealing to the hardworking officials, especially the deputy chairperson, by which I cannot call by name. You remind us of true hardworking officials, even Honorable Sipo, who's also a member of the WCC, who are working hard, dedicating their lives, but forever have to run against political constraints of budgets and finances, being placed in a position to deliver on historic mandates without the capacity or possible resources to successfully transform, which flies against the common sense to say You are pushing the South African public too far. Because the impression is being created that some officials only use the committees in the state for career grooming and not serving our people. But remember one thing, we have a history of rising up against those who think they can suppress our people. One thing, we will not allow segregation again in the Western Cape. 2, we will not tolerate racism indefinitely. 3, you will not divorce our heritage estate. You will face us in court, whether you like it or not. This process must become more elaborate and more open to the people of the Western Cape. You cannot have this process without the clear understanding of what is the definition of decolonization. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your concern has been noted. Before I recognize you, sir, there is a lady here who raised her hand first, and then it will be you thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, my name is Mary Jansen. I want to thank my Khoisan brothers for raising a very, very important issue that I wanted to raise. We are the forgotten people. We are the indigenous people. We have been left out of CODESA. We have been left out of all the discussions. We are not even part of the 11 languages. And we are the first people of South Africa. The first time that I heard about this workshop is actually an insult to the Khoisan of the Western Cape. Because we were never, we were never given the freedom when you talk about FPIC, free, prior, informed consent. But we hear about a committee. We were left out. And when we talk about we, I'm talking about the Khoisan people of the Western Cape. We are left out on so many things. And I think this must get to an end. Because we cannot have a future. We cannot have a future. We've got a history. But that history is so distorted. It's not even acknowledged at schools. It's a distorted history. That is why we are all a broken nation. And when we talk about a broken nation, I'm talking about all our people, our African people, our people of color. We are a broken nation. We have not healed because we don't know each other. We are divorced from one another. I thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
May I speak? I wanted to find out with just a clarification. The PGNCs, is their task to respond or to process applications or also to propose name changes?
Thank you very much. Who's going to answer the first one? Chair. Let me say it for the process of flowing. Each and every one of you have noted the questions, isn't it? So you'll respond as in that sequence. Thank you.
No, thanks, Chairperson. You know, the issue of naming and renaming is very emotive. A history and a heritage of people was rubbed off the earth's surface. When the colonizer landed on this land, he made a very dangerous assumption. And the assumption was that there are no people on this land. He made an assumption that he was discovering new land. Therefore, anything on the new land did not exist. It was discovered. Now, once you put that frame of mind in the work that we are doing, you will begin to appreciate the difficulty that we have to navigate through. And I'm not going to downplay the level of frustration that is expressed by the Khoisan people. Never. And I won't even attempt to plead a sympathetic mind to it, because I cannot possibly sympathize with the Khoisan people. The shoes that they are wearing, which are pinching their feet, are not the same shoes as the ones that I'm wearing. I cannot begin to understand the pain they are going through. That's the first thing. But having said that, it will be ingenious for me to want to absolve myself from being part of the frustration that the Khoisan people are facing, and begin to say, yeah, this and that and that and that and that. I'm not going to do it. And when I say I'm speaking on behalf of the council. It's just that I need to give it a face. But please, when we raise issues, we shouldn't be careful. We should be very careful not to put ourselves in the wrong and then start pointing when we ourselves are wrong. Issues such as the work that we are doing are issues that are legislated. I like the posture that is taken there. Whether you like it or not, you'll face us in court. And I want to take that not as a threat, but as a promise. And if that is the route that we are going, let's go that route. Let's put processes under which we operate through the law and challenge them legislatively. Because when the minister appoints a PGNC, a minister will put there with a chart and tick the boxes and say to you, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. And then we'll say to you, I did everything that I had to do. I advertised the nomination process through so many newspapers. The question then becomes, was that adequate? You understand what I'm saying? Now, so dealing with the issue of adequacy or non-adequacy is something that we can possibly not resolve in a sitting like this. Okay? Now, what am I saying? I want to state the following. Never give advice in a crowd. Never give advice in a crowd. So I'm saying, more especially the Khoisan community, can you allow us to walk this road with you? No one of us should come here and attempt to be clever that he can resolve the issues. And the issues that you are raising are very pertinent and very painful. I told you I'm the great-grandson of Hoshimamburu. My great-grandfather was hanged by Paul Kruger. But when people in Tshwane wanted to remove the statue of Paul Kruger, I was the first to say, no, don't remove the statue. Rather, bring the statue of my great-grandfather in the same space so that they can conclude the dialogue. he must tell my great-grandfather why he hanged him. And you know what's worse? Even today, we don't know where the remains of my great-grandfather are. I could have said, hey, you know, I remember they made fire trying to burn the statue of Paul Kruger. And I marveled at the place where the fire was burning. It was from underneath the coat that he was wearing. It was a very nice sight, Tantili. But I still said, and when I was given an opportunity, and I'm telling you real living examples, when I was given an opportunity to remove Paul Kruger Street in Pretoria, I refused. I said, parallel to this street, there's going to be Hoshimampuru. And Hoshimampuru is going to be significant because it will be a street that people enter Pretoria with. So what am I saying? I say sometimes let's find a battle that will make us winners and not losers. I hear, what significance does Delare Road have in a Khoisan community? You know, naming is very emotive. There's a story of this person on horseback from Port Natal. Was it from? Yes, to Grahamstown, apparently. What used to be Grahamstown. Their king, or something like that. When you move around, you find the statue of that man and the horse, but not the statue of the person who was running along the horse. This 16-year-old would run ahead, come back and report to this guy and say the road is clear, and they'll go again. And they'll tell you this man rode this horse for 7 days when the trip took 10 days. But they're not talking about this one. If this one was for 7 days, you can imagine this one did it 3 times. And his name is Ndongeni Kaqoki. No one is saying anything about Ndongeni Kaqoki. So I'm saying, when confrontation stops, idealism must begin. Instead of bothering, how do we take this process forward? And I've just offered our services to the Khoisan people and said together, how do we resolve this thing? And I haven't consulted anyone on this one. I take advantage of my age. Having said that, I don't think I'm prepared to answer any other question, because this is the question. All others are superficial. They're very unnecessary. You can ask me that over lunch. I thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Deputy Chair.
Chair? Chair? Chair, can you hear me?
Hello?
I'm here, behind you.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Just one point, I want to respond to a question by the gentleman who asked if the PGNC only process names, or can they also submit application? PGNCs can only process names. We may not submit application ourselves. That's why we're doing awareness, so that people can be aware and they can submit applications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mavumengwana. Those are the hands that I recognized in the process of Q&A. Unless if there is any other hand that has been raised, but recognized the names, the hands that I did. And I believe the Deputy Chair covered most of the ground of the questions that were raised by the people that wanted clarity or who were concerned. I don't believe as a program director I have to comment on any other thing. I was just driving the car anyway, isn't it? Yeah. With that said, I'll call upon Ms. Mtemu to come and give us announcements. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, all. Lunch will be served downstairs. Let me just check the details. On entrance 5, ground floor, there will be ladies outside who will direct us to entrance 5, ground floor, where lunch will be served. And there's information sent on the council's WhatsApp group regarding the plans for 3 o'clock. Council members, please check that information. Thank you.
Once more, thank you very much for your cooperation, attendance, cooperation. This was a very lively kind of event. Let me say, we have noted that now this cannot, just like the chairperson, deputy chair said, you never stop to learn. So once this has been done now, we hope to meet again next year, either on paper, Mr. Mavumengwana, or at any other venue next year, continue with the process. I'll hand over now to the chairperson to close the event.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to our traditional leaders who are also here for the duration of the program. We are saying that this is a wrap-up. This is the end of today's program. We are here for another day where council will proceed with its business. But also, I'm having quite a number of takeaways here. Before that, in fact, I've seen a colleague, a councillor from Limpopo, Councillor Twala. He is also with us, joined us. You know, Limpopo is right up north, former Northern Transvaal, so it's very far to come down here. I think it has taken him that long, but he came earlier. Councillor Twala, welcome. But also I was told good news that he is one significant factor for the next 5 years. I believe he will be responsible for working hand in hand with government as a workers' leader. He is now the Deputy Secretary of COSATU. Am I confirming the position and the role? Truly, congratulations. We do not take your attendance for granted. We always look up to also having you because workers are very prominent and significant part of the struggle, and they have walked the streets as well to confirm that South Africa needs an economy, and without their labor, nothing will come through. Mine is to close, but also, as said, I'm having quite a number of takeaways. I'm also having quite a number of emotions. There's one thing I think I didn't disclose or declare here, Deputy Chair. I am a princess, so that's why I am treated like this, with Deputy Chair protecting me. Like, I am a princess of Bakwena. Yes, Kimusutu. Yes. So this means that once we are able to talk to our elderly and many others, we do not forfeit responsibilities, but we are happy that at least we have come to this province to confirm that all that was unsaid or undone, all that was kept or perceived as no-go areas or as untaken care of or as hindrances or not understood, today we have managed to put them out in the open. I like these engagements because I'm coming from student youth. If you've been to UWC, there's no way you can be a silent nobody. So you do thrive in conflict, but conflict resolution is something that we took away from that institution. But we are not formal residents of the Western Cape. What we say is that as an extension, as Deputy Chair alluded to, we are here to serve. There's a new committee that is also appointed. Let us find ways of making sure that this works. When I had a meeting with Minister, I said to him, Western Cape was one of the provinces that was giving me sleepless nights because we were getting 1 or 2 or less than 5 names per annum. But there's so much history, there's so much call for transformation in this province that we need to look into. And it is also not ending in the narrative of the first people of origin here, the Khoi people, but it continues to live in the modern life and the urbanization that we see. There's native yards here, and it is unpleasant from all the time when you refer to places, you confirm colonization, you confirm apartheid, because these were structured through demarcation, through urbanization. I think, Mr. McFerrin, you know better the geography and the stand out of these things, and how they are not likely sites, because from their even construction, they were meant to be native yards. And these are the conversations we should be picking up, and people of such places should be coming out and saying, not now, not in our name, this is time for change. It's also the same with the Eastern Cape. We still have native units, NUs. There's Mdantsane. I think Councillor Jodwana, we had that conversation as well for Gqeberha. We still have such in Motherwell. And all of these are of concern to many of us, including our children. What will we tell them when they ask that we have places like these? And name them and make them official in the manner in which we do. As I close, we are also taking the report back to the department and say that we've had a diversity of engagements and including representation at the Western Cape. And we are taking the pointers and we are taking the responsibility of advisory. Remember, ours is advisory. We do not wake up and name, change places. What we do, we take the names received from communities. And communities are diverse, of course, so it's going to take quite a long way, yet all we need to remember is that we have a backlog as South Africa for many other things, including this agenda. And we are leaving you as the council in saying that let us continue. We'll walk side by side with you, but we are going to get the lead from these communities. We are going to sit and preside over these names received from the Western Cape in the near future, and we are going to marvel at the discussions we've had and remember how this was sparked, how this was ignited, and how we reached a conclusion of mediation, a conclusion of negotiation, and a conclusion of consensus. That is what democracy is about. And I'm grateful to be part of this as well as a young South African, so that it can continue, as I'm asking for 50 more years, to see this change we want to see in our lives and be part of it. Thank you all members. Thank you to our community members, to council members, to our sign language sisters. We really appreciate the gesture. We really appreciate the consistency and how we make languages official in this manner. Have a good day and afternoon. Lunch is being served. Thank you.
Do not forget photo shoots happening right now as we leave at the foyer. We will direct you.